Hey everybody, it's Mr. X-Stitch here and I am back with another video. Today I thought I would take time to look at some design wisdom, pointers that I've gleaned from some of the best cross-stitch designers in the business. So stick around and let's see what there is to learn. Recently I've done a series of videos called Designer Discourse where I do some long form interviews with a wide range of cross-stitch designers, people who I've known for years and people whose wisdom is worth tapping into. The conversations have been with people like Jane Greenoff, who's been a cross-stitch designer for nearly 40 years, Johan Verbruggen from the Flanders Tapestry Collection, who's got a fascinating international perspective on things. We've had Cheryl McKinnon, aka Tiny Modernist, all the way from Canada. Lord Libidan, the Batman of cross-stitch as I like to call him, with amazing deep dive into all kinds of fascinating nooks and crannies of the world of cross-stitch. We have Melorize, the up-and-coming designer from Spain, and we started off the series with Maria Diaz, one of the UK's most well-loved cross-stitch designers. Now, throughout these conversations, we talked about all kinds of interesting bits and pieces, how they came to be designers, about their visual aesthetics, about the joys of working with cross-stitch. But I also wanted to touch on practical advice for people who wanted to get into the world of design. And the interesting thing is that the advice that they came up with doesn't just apply to cross-stitch design. They're almost universal principles about how to take those first steps in being a designer and how to move forward, exploring your own creative design path. So without further ado, let us dive into tip number 1 and see what we have to say. Tip number 1, if you feel like designing, just get on and do it. Whatever your chosen design medium is, the only way you are going to become a designer is by getting on and doing it. Now, there's tons of research that's been done about our lizard brain, the way our ego can make us feel afraid of doing things, so perhaps it's better to not even try than to face failure. But I promise you, the only way you're going to get good about doing anything in the world ever is by just getting on and doing it. So don't let fear get in the way. Do it as though it doesn't matter. Design as though nobody is looking. Just crack on and you'll be fine. Tip number 2, don't second guess yourself. If you're designing something, if you're making something and it is turning out a particular way, maybe that's the way it's meant to be. Don't hold back just because it doesn't look like the way you thought it would be. A lot of the times our creativity will take us in all kinds of different directions, but just follow your path. Trust yourself. You may want to be Picasso and you may end up being more like Robert Crumb, the cartoonist. You know, whatever your output is going to be, it will be the thing that comes from you and it will evolve over time. So don't let yourself be disappointed if it doesn't look like your expectations. As Lord Libidan said in his interview, you don't necessarily know what the right way to do things is, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't just pursue that path anyway. Over time you will learn the right processes to achieve the goals that you want, but if you start doing something and it goes a particular direction, just go with that. Don't second guess yourself. Don't try and shoehorn your creativity into a direction that has been set by other people, because that's not your calling. You may end up heading towards specific aesthetics and that's great, but in the early stages, go with the flow and let that flow go. Tip number 3, do a little bit every day. As Melorize said when we interviewed her, a daily practice is one of the best ways to improve your design skills.
I can see, because I'm now improving all my patterns from the beginning. So with the technique, with the colors, with the kind of grid, and I can see the difference. And that's because I've been doing at least 2 a month. Mm-hmm. And lately one a week. I really see the difference. And my style is, I'm using a cross-stitch software, so I'm not doing pixel art, but I'm combining Photoshop and Max Stitch. Yeah. And I can see the difference from the first ones, and yeah.
A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. That's true. Point 1, make that first step. But point 3, keep going. If every day you're able to take a step down your creative path, then that's fantastic, because every single step you will take leads to improvement. And design it's a process. Design isn't the outcome. Design isn't the end product. Design is the process that you go through. As a designer, you are merely expressing creativity, and the way that you express it improves with every single step that you take. If you're able to do it once a week, once a day, twice a day, set yourself a schedule, block out a little bit of time, make it become a habit so that you actively continue with your own design development, because it will leap forward. You'll find that these ideas come, and with each idea comes a sense of satisfaction or dissatisfaction, and those are the twists and turns that your creativity will take. But give yourself the time to do these things, give yourself the space, and it will pay dividends. Tip number 4, do what you love. Design what you love. If you are to be successful in any business practice, you've got to love what you're doing, because you're going to be doing it for a long time. So when it comes to designing, when it comes to expressing your creativity in that direction, make sure that it's something that you love. You may see other people having great successes in different parts of that creative space to you. Good luck to them. Don't try and force yourself into those paths, because they may not be true to you. And your truth is really important. Your truth is the thing that will get you up every day so that you can continue on this path. So make sure that your designs reflect the things that you love, because if they do, if every day you are making things that you love, you are working for a living, you are having the best possible outcome there. So make sure it's something that you love. And if not everybody loves it, so be it. You don't need the whole world to love your designs. You just need a few people to love your designs enough, and they will tell a few other people, and before you know it, you'll have an audience of like-minded people who are excited to see what you come up with next. Make sure that your work comes from your heart, because that is the right kind of frequency to find the people that are in tune with your creative output. Do what you love, and you won't regret it. Tip number 5. Getting around creative block. Creative block is something that happens to every single one of us, and it can be a challenge. Some days you just don't feel like designing. Yet your creativity still needs to be like a stream, like a river. It still needs to flow. So if you're unable to pursue a particular creative direction, if you feel stymied by that creativity, do something completely different. As Johan said in his interview, if he doesn't know what he wants to do next, he just plays around with colour, puts combinations together to see what excites him, and then takes his design decisions from that point forward. If you're finding that your particular creative pursuit just isn't working for you now, do something different. Go online, look at other people's inspiration, look at completely different mediums to the one that you're working in. Try and get inspiration from other ideas that don't fit with your path, because you may find that somewhere a little inkling of an idea will get in there, and that will give you the momentum to carry forward. But if inspiration is not striking you, and if you are struggling with design at that particular moment in time, assuming that you don't have an immediate deadline, cut yourself some slack. This is what I think. You will get more benefit from going for a walk outside, looking around at the world around you, letting the sunlight hit your skin, and just taking a breath and letting yourself relax. There's a lot to be said for that, because half of the problem with creative block is our own internal dialogue that tells us that we must be failing, and the tension that comes from that. There's no way you can release that tension by pushing at it. It just doesn't work, and you don't want to have to force yourself to make stuff that you're not going to be happy about. So if you've got a creative block, if you need to, just walk away from it. Go and look at other things, get inspiration from elsewhere, get a breath of fresh air, get a dose of sunlight. You might find that you come back ready to crack on. Tip number 6, feel the fear and do it anyway. The minute you put your design work out there, it is as though you are bearing your soul and putting something out for the world to ridicule. I remember the first time I ever exhibited any work, and I hid on the other side of the room just waiting for people to point and laugh at what I'd done. And do you know what? They didn't. This is the worst thing about putting yourselves out there, the way your tiny lizard brain will convince you that you're about to fail. Seth Godin, in his book The Icarus Deception, says that if you are feeling like the world is shouting at you that you are about to fail, then you are truly living, because you are pushing past your own creative barriers. You are pushing yourself, you are growing and evolving, and upon reflection, that is a magnificent thing to experience. I still enjoy times where I feel nervous about what I'm going to do, because I know that that means that I'm growing and I'm getting better at what I do. So put your designs out there. We've said you should make them. We've said you should follow your path. We've said you should do what you love, and we've said that you should not let creative block get the better of you. But the main thing you should do is ship that work. Make sure that if you make work, you put it out there. It doesn't matter in the early stages what that work looks like. You need to go through the personal experience of putting your work out there and knowing that it's there and waiting to receive the feedback. You need to know what that feels like so you don't get afraid. Because there will be times when people will give you feedback and it may hurt you. You may take it personally. Sometimes in this day and age you will get people who will give you personal, critical feedback about you that has got nothing to do with your product, and that is not cool, but that is the state that we live in. And so over time you need to become resilient to these things. And the first step is to just put your work out there. The great thing about when you start is that nobody's really watching. You can put your designs on an online marketplace, and it's really unlikely that you're going to make the front page of that marketplace straight away. So you can put your work out there and you can wait and see what happens. But getting over the fear of that first hurdle of putting the work out there in the first place is a big one. And once you've done it, you will be so proud, you'll be so impressed with what you've done that it will give you the inspiration to carry on. So make the work that you love, but make sure you put it out there. Tip number 7, build resilience. As we said in the previous point, once you've put your work out there, it can be terrifying because you can just be waiting for people to shoot you down. And if your work is well loved, you can get 100 positive reviews, but that one negative review will be the one that will plague you. What you have to learn to do over time is become more resilient in these things. Experienced designers will be able to receive feedback and not take it personally, because they know that nobody is pointing out the flaws with them. It's too easy at the start to think that someone criticizing your work is criticizing you. They don't know you. They don't know the person that you are. All they know is their response to the thing that they're looking at, and that's not a criticism of you. Sometimes people will make criticisms of you that are misguided because they don't understand that they're merely looking at your product. They're looking at your design. They're not looking at you. This is one of the things I found really good about having a pseudonym, about being known as Mr. X-Stitch. It meant that people never really got to know me. They got to know this version of me, which is quite a useful tool with which I could hide behind. And it also meant that people would have this vision of what Mr. X-Stitch would be, but it wouldn't be what Jamie Chalmers is. And that's a nice security blanket in those early stages where you're just not sure. But you need to be resilient. You need to learn to take criticism with grace, even if it is delivered without grace. If you're able to take feedback from someone, receive that feedback and adapt your designs to suit their needs, not only will you have impressed your customers because they'll see that you're receptive to their feedback, but it will make you a better person. It will make you more adaptive. It will make you less constrained by what you think is right and wrong. Sometimes people's feedback will be brilliant. Sometimes people's feedback will disagree with what you think. But if that person is paying you to do this design, then it's up to them, really. I mean, there comes a point, don't get me wrong, you don't need to have 37 revisions of the same thing. But whatever happens, just be resilient. Just know that feedback about your designs is about your designs. It is not a personal criticism of you. It's just what people think about what you've done. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Doesn't necessarily mean they're right, though. And tip number 8, and this one was summed up perfectly by Cheryl from Tiny Modernist: just trust in yourself. When you're a designer, when you're expressing your creativity and you're putting it out there into a creative space, you have to believe in what you're doing. We've covered these points already in this video. We've talked about how you should do stuff you love and how you should become resilient and know that you're okay, regardless of what the feedback says. But you have to trust in yourself. The further you go down a design path, the better you will get at understanding what your version of design is, what your creative output is, and over time you will negotiate through the different genres and the different themes that other people produce, and you will find your specific voice. And it may be similar to other people's, but somewhere within there will be your truth, because you'll be producing the work that you love.
Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and just really do what you love and don't try to force it. So you know, basically just follow the path as it comes towards you. You know, if you really love designing a certain thing, you just follow it. And then I think, you know, there's a saying, right? You don't have to see the whole set of stairs. You just need the next step. You know, things just happen, and then that will open up the next thing for you to do. So I would say just do what you love and trust in it.
It can be so daunting to try and set yourself up as a designer, to put yourself out there, to market your work and hope for the best. But as long as you come from a position of trueness within yourself, everything you do will be congruous to that. And you will be producing designs that you're at ease with, that you're proud to put out there. And the more designs you do, the more your ideas will evolve and the more your styles will evolve. And the more the world will influence those designs, but they will still be true to you at the point at which you design them. So just trust in yourselves. Trust in yourself, love what you do a bit of that work every day. Don't worry too much about what people say, and you've got this. So there you have it. 8 snippets of design wisdom which will hopefully give you the inspiration to move forward with your own creativity. I started out in 2008 selling cross-stitch patterns on Etsy, and now I design a magazine. My personal design path has evolved a lot over time and has included marketing, online development. You know, there's all these different bits and pieces that you have to do when you're a solopreneur. That means you end up wearing all kinds of hats and having all kinds of skill sets, and in a weird way, these can help you overcome those creative blocks that I talked about earlier, because you might feel like you don't want to produce another design, but perhaps you can do an email newsletter instead, which is an equally creative pursuit. Hopefully, by reflecting back on some of the conversations that we've had in the Designer Discourse series, you can see these wisdoms and you can understand how they can be applied to your circumstance. I would love to know from you where you are in the design journey. What are the things that trouble you about moving forward? What design wisdom have you got that we can share in a subsequent video? I think it's fantastic learning from people who've got such a wealth of experience. So if you can, take these pieces of wisdom away with you, write them down, keep them in a safe place. But know that as long as you believe in yourself and as long as you make a regular practice to continue producing new design, you will get there. And don't get too caught up on what the end product is when you start. Just allow yourself to go with that flow and you'll be fine. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did like the video, please feel free to like the video, and hopefully you'll subscribe to the channel as well. I'm Mr. X-Stitch, I'm the kingpin of contemporary embroidery, and I'm here to change the way you think about needlework. So if you're into that sort of thing, subscribe to the channel and join us for the ride. Thanks very much.